So we're looking at drone pictures of the Palisades fire in Los Angeles. As we know, it is the biggest ever in Los Angeles history, and we're talking about thousands of homes destroyed in this spectacular area of the United States. And like you, as we've been watching at home these past days, you look at this footage and your heart breaks, and in many cases there are tears as people escaped, so fearful, and lost everything that they have had, and their memories and everything from their lives. And you know, you don't always know that you're going to know somebody who's affected in that way, but we do on this show because he's a guest on our show. He's a friend of mine. He's someone you may very well know in Canada. He's one of the world's most renowned brass players. He is the lead trumpet formerly in the Canadian Brass. He's a proud Order of Canada recipient, as you're going to see. And his name, he's also a professor at UCLA, so he lives in the Palisades area, and he has lost everything this morning. Jens Lindemann is joining me this morning to share his story and some of the footage that he has gathered. And Jens, I am so delighted and yet so saddened to see you on the continent. There's so much wrapped up in a small question, but let me just begin with, how are you?
It's a difficult question to answer. You feel numb. You know, there's a range of emotions you go through. It's a very strange thing to try to explain, but numbness is probably the best way to describe it. This all just happened about 16 hours ago for us.
So it's also fresh for us, you and your wife, Jennifer. That you are here and that I'm able to talk to you is the most important thing, of course. But so much has been lost, and you sent us some pictures. So why don't we take a look, first of all, at what you sent, what was your home. Jens, just describe the video that we're looking at here.
Well, I can't exactly see the video.
Okay, well, these are the still photos, first of all. You obviously went back to see what was?
Yes. Well, we managed to have somebody from the fire department take a photograph of our place because we were an isolated casualty, and many homes around us survived, and ours, for some reason, didn't, and we saw it. Jennifer and I saw it on a TV broadcast in a small screen in the corner. The helicopters were flying, and we recognized our home and our area, and we saw that a tiny little sliver of that particular part of the Palisades had burned, and that I had it confirmed by the fire department, which took a photograph and sent it to me.
So you're watching on live television as your own home is burning?
We saw on live television that the home had burned. We didn't see the burning portion of it. It was a helicopter that had flown up. The news have been broadcasting this, as you can imagine, extensively. And they showed an aerial shot, and they were showing so much of the Palisades have been devastated, and other parts of Los Angeles for that matter, as you well know. But that tiny little moment in time, we looked up and we immediately recognized where we were, and we saw that it was gone. And that's when I started making phone calls to try to have it confirmed, and it was all gone.
And we're looking at video that you've sent us as well of the fire. You've talked in some of your social media posts about the speed. You were watching from afar, so obviously you had time to get out. Tell me about the evacuation process and how frenetic it was and what happened.
Well, first of all, we're used to wildfires in Los Angeles, and especially where I live. It's not an odd occurrence, but it's dealt with very, very quickly. And so I saw a puff of smoke coming from just across the road where I live, and went up with a camera to take a picture of it. And then literally 5 minutes later, it was an inferno behind it because the brush just completely blew up. And 5 minutes after that, we saw the helicopter. And so I immediately went back, and you're prepared to leave. But what had happened, and this has probably also been reported, there were so many cars trying to leave the bottom of the hill that there was literally 200 cars which were abandoned because there was fire on either sides of the canyon, and people literally left their cars there. So we were trapped up on the mountain for another 4 hours until the fire department literally bulldozed all those cars to the side. And so there was a small window of time where we could leave and then grab what we could. And then we were escorted down the hill through what I can only describe as carnage and what looked like a war zone. That's such an overused term, but that's the only way I can describe it.
Well, you know, there are many musicians and actors and people in television and film there who have talked about that, and they have such difficulty putting into words. They talk about the enormity of the devastation, and I can't imagine what you were seeing around you. But when you talk about having a little bit of time to grab, I mentioned your Order of Canada because look what you do still have. But what did you and Jennifer do in that time in gathering all of the things?
Well, it's yes, you're looking at my one blazer and a T-shirt,
Yeah.
and in that moment, it's a fascinating. Fascinating is perhaps the wrong word, but it's an interesting moment where you are deciding quickly what do you need to grab. And I have a collection of 35 trumpets, and it turns out I grabbed this one was the first horn that I grabbed. It was a trumpet that Doc Severinsen had given me, and your mind immediately goes to things that seem to mean something to you on a level that you can't really describe. I know afterward you could say it's just stuff, but it's not. They're memories, and it's a piece of yourself. So literally I grabbed 8 of my horns, and the others were lost. But that was the first one I grabbed because it meant so much to me. I don't know how else to describe it. And yeah, that was about it.
8 horns, Order of Canada pin, a blazer and a T-shirt. And what are you thinking about now that has been lost, Jens?
Well, we think of everybody that has lost so much. Unfortunately, we were caught as an isolated incident up in the Palisade Highlands where I live. But the village of Pacific Palisades, from my understanding, is 60 to 70% gone. And this was our village. This is where we lived. There were neighbors that we knew. I know other people that have lost everything. Gene Levy, from what I understand, has lost it all. He was our honorary mayor of the Palisades, and a friend of mine. These are people you just see, and they're not stars and celebrities. They're people that live there. It's the best way to describe it. And you see each other regularly, and this is the part that's I think most crushing, is that you hurt for everybody. And social media in particular, you mentioned it, Heather. The best part about social media was discovered because I posted this and I knew we would get a lot of response. And there has been so much love coming from literally around the world. You don't feel alone, and it's a way to help carry some of the ache. But right now, it's just sort of a numbing feeling. And, you're doing everything you can just sort of to say it's all right to find a way to rebuild. And yet it isn't at the same time.
Friends coming forward to express comforting words, but also those who are in close proximity, I know, are also doing everything they can to help the neighbors who've lost everything. So George Strombolopoulos, for example, Strombolopoulos, whom you probably know, he's opened his home to friends in Los Angeles. And I'm able to talk to you because you're an Edmonton boy, and there's a connection to where you are speaking to us from this morning. Tell us who's come to help you.
Well, it's when the social media went up, and incidentally, just before we left that mountain, I did also want to mention I had a trumpet student who graduated from UCLA who became and is on the front lines of the LA Fire Department. He was the one to call me, and without telling me to leave, he basically said I would leave. And it was an interesting moment because the student became the teacher and the teacher became the student. And that's when we left. And with the social media outburst, Glenn Sather contacted me immediately and said, come to Palm Springs, stay with us for as long as you need to. And we had nowhere else to go in Los Angeles. Hotels are literally they're packed, they're everywhere. And so we're here with Glenn and Ann Sather for an overnight. And then tomorrow we're going to continue on to Scottsdale, where I've at least found an empty home where I can practice and Jennifer can work. Because life has to go on. That's the difficult part here, Heather. You somehow have to continue, and you don't have a roof over your head. You really feel like a vagabond.
Really, I wanted people maybe from it was another era. Glenn Sather, of course, along with the Oilers, so famously connected to the Oilers, and someone that you would know. Thinking of your family in Edmonton, they'll be so happy to know that you're okay. Obviously, that's the main thing. But that was going to be my question to you, Jens. People who know you had so many projects, you're such a positive person, you have so many exciting things in your life and in that of your wife's life ahead, and this has come, this unbelievable blow. So how do you go on, and what are you thinking in terms of facing things?
I have a major concerto that I have to play in 5 weeks. It's a very interesting process because it was written by Wynton Marsalis, who's a great friend and a hero to me, and it's the first time I've gotten a chance to do it. And I can tell you, Heather, I'm just trying to keep my head down and not just practice to play the concerto very well, because it's very difficult, but because it's also a way to heal. I have never looked forward to a concert as much as this because it's a way for me to pour my soul into my work and share that with an audience. And that symbiotic relationship is what all artists live to do. And this concert in particular, it feels so much more important than anything I've done to date. I don't know how to describe it. It's a very strange emotion.
Oh, to be in that auditorium, to hear that. And I'm sure we'll be hearing you playing. I'm sure the musical community will be rallying to help you and others in the situation. I'm going to let you go. I unfortunately have to let you go. But I think I kind of glossed over this. When you were grabbing things to leave, why did you choose that Order of Canada pin?
Yeah, that's also a great question. Canada has given me everything I have. When I wear this anywhere in Los Angeles and people ask, tell me about that little snowflake on your lapel, it gives me a chance to talk about my country, where I grew up, where I studied, everything that I'm proud to be. I represent Canada everywhere I go. And in a moment of crisis, it's fascinating what you think to bring and what's important to you. And the people that have helped me and the people that I can help moving forward, those are the memories you think about when you're clutching at something.
You know, they may sound, they're just words. I hope they don't sound empty, but thank you for talking to us and comforting thoughts, and all the best to you and to Jennifer. And we'll be in touch following how things go, and particularly, you know, in the short term as you figure things out. Yeah, and thank you so much.
I believe that empathy is the biggest thing that's going to come out of this for people who have either been affected or are thinking of people who have been affected. And that gives me great hope for humanity, quite frankly.
Okay. It's the middle of the night, dear. You got to get some rest. I'll talk to you later. Thank you, Jens. Appreciate the time.
Thank you, Heather. Thank you very much.